Do you think the comment section on social media is a good place to hold your brothers and sisters accountable in
Hmm.
the Lord? Because to me, I'm not so sure. I rarely comment. It could just be me. I'm barely
Yeah.
on social media like that. I rarely comment, but I see a lot of fighting in the comment sections,
Yeah.
and I'm just not sure if this is a good place to actually resolve conflict and to seek peace and to aim towards unity. But what's your
Right.
thoughts on
I think the comment section is amoral. It can either be good or bad.
that? Mm-hmm.
If you go to the comment section with the principal and James, be quick to listen and slow to speak.
Mm-hmm.
I think the comment section can be a beautiful thing where you can talk some things out and work along with people. But if you are going to the comment section with any other ethic than genuinely trying to engage with people in a way that is profitable,
Mm-hmm.
I think that turns out the wrong way. And you may think it's profitable when you're starting, but I think that the Lord will tell you that there are tons of times where I've written stuff, paragraphs, and the Lord is just like, don't do that.
Yeah.
Right. Don't say that. And I think what the comment section allows us to do is thinking it deceives us to think that we're influencing people who we are not even in relationship close enough
Right.
to influence while
Right.
we're ignoring the real important conversations with the people who are actually around us.
Yeah.
Right.
Can I
So
comment on that real quick?
yes, yes.
Because what you just said made me realize I don't comment that often.
Hmm.
But 95% of the time, when I'm about to go to the comment section, my heart has always been in the wrong place. So
Mm.
maybe it's just me
Yeah.
where I think the comment section in general, just for the world and for the culture of America, is a place where people go to like say whatever they want to say because
Hmm.
they're not saying it to anybody's face, right? This is inconsequential. I could cuss you out on Instagram and there's no consequences. Where if you're in front of my face, if I cuss you out, it's gonna be a different story, right?
Yeah.
So for a lot of like the culture on social media, it's the place where people go to be rude, to be jerks, to say whatever they want to say. I do think that for communities of Christians, it should be different. And now I'm questioning if you should even spend so much time in the comment section because I don't see it done that well that often. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
You know, I don't be commenting, but I'll be watching.
I agree with you. I
I
think if
I I definitely be entertained
yeah, I definitely
at,
I
at other
think
people's
that
expense.
if the comment section brought us more into conversations like this, it could be useful. One of the things that we have to figure out as believers is when we are handed tools or innovation that we do not use it like the worldly culture will use it, but how do we make it useful in
Hmm.
culture and for kingdom ethics? And I think social media is a beautiful thing. I think if we had more people meeting and talking things out in a respectful manner and doing things like that, that this will be a beautiful tool that can advance the kingdom. But I also think that we bought into the culture. I think the comment section is another shadow of that culture of expertise. Just because you have an opinion and you can post it, you think that you're supposed to speak in every conversation,
Hmm.
right? And so the Lord has told me at times when I'm looking at something, I'm like, oh, that'll be interesting to talk about. Let me make a comment. And he's just like, Darren, you're not qualified to speak into that,
Hmm.
right? Like nothing about you haven't put in the amount of time to study it. You don't know the background of it. So you actually commenting on it is not adding value, is actually devaluing the conversation that really needs to be had just because you want to put your 2 cents. You're not qualified. And
Hmm.
I think that that's what we miss on social media. I'm not qualified to talk about a lot of stuff that I want to comment on. I can have an opinion. Paul says it in Corinthians. Everything is permissible, but everything's not beneficial. And I just have to think about that in the comment section with social media and with a ton of other things also.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of ways to do it. I think that more people should be sending private DMs to be
Mm-hmm.
when they feel
Mm-hmm.
like somebody has done something. I think that would more reflect when you go to your brother one on one
Mm-hmm.
and when he doesn't listen, you can go to with two or three people. So I think that we can look for ways in the comment section to reflect some of the procedures and processes that are laid out in scripture for how to address conflict. I don't think most people do that. I think that they're led by how the comment section is used more than they led by how to use the comment section from the Bible, which
Now
is what you just kind of
I
allude.
have a challenge for you there.
Yeah, go ahead.
Social media is
Mm-hmm.
a public platform, right? So what I see social media is the public square, right? It's like when
Mm-hmm.
Paul is walking through Areopagus and he's in the marketplace and he sees people talking about their gods and whatnot, and he notices the unknown god. It might be right before Areopagus, or I just have to place it. I know it's Acts. I think it's around in the 20s. I'll have to place it. When you're in public place, you have
Mm-hmm.
to welcome back and forth conversation. If I'm going to release
Yeah.
something publicly, then I am welcoming people to like it, love it, hate it, whatever that may be, and that's something that I have to account
Yeah.
for. What I get
Mm-hmm.
frustrated with about Christians, especially Christian leaders, is you'll put
Mm-hmm.
something out stating an opinion. But then when somebody counters your opinion in the comment section, you want to start a conversation. But when somebody comes to your conversation and they disagree with you, there's this victim stance that takes place, right? There's
Mm-hmm.
not this space for the dialogue that you put into a public place. If you
Mm-hmm.
want somebody to publicly comment, now here's where I will agree with you. If those public comments start to affect our unity and our love and our regard for one another, then we need to back out of it. No conversation is important
Right.
for that.
Yeah.
But if we're putting thoughts out into the public square and somebody challenges your thoughts, then why'd you put it in the public square? Right? Like
Yeah.
that's challenging to me. And here's my thesis. Because you look at us as your fans or people that support
Mm.
you and not people who are in the level to be in conversation with you.
Right.
Right. And I think that
Yeah.
is a dangerous way to go
Yeah.
about certain, how you release your opinions, content, sermons, whatever it may be. You put it out in public. And you
Yeah.
can't just put it out in public for it to work one-sidedly for you. You put it out there so people can do with it as they please.
Yeah. So I got two thoughts, maybe more, but I think I got two primary thoughts. As I'm trying to work out what we're talking about as far as like considering yourself to be a second class citizen, a servant, the procedures and the process and things like that. So I think so one, I agree that in general, if you open up a public conversation, you have the conversation in public, it just is what it is, right?
Mhm.
At the same time, what I'm thinking about is like what you just mentioned towards the end, which one helps us more toward unity, right?
Mhm.
So a part of how I'm imagining that could look is somebody might say something publicly and they might have been dead wrong,
Mhm.
might have had a bunch of issues. The reason why I would personally consider sending a DM first is because one, I'm positioning myself as a servant to this person.
Mm.
And if just to give it the character dynamics, if my master is saying something wild, I'm not going to challenge him publicly, even if he said it publicly.
Mhm.
I'm going to tell him, I'm going to say something to him behind closed doors
Right.
first, at least at a minimum,
Right.
because one, I that helps me to position and posture my heart in a more loving way, and two, I think it helps him to hear me more. Right
Right.
now, that might be because his own ego and his own selfishness that he can't hear me publicly, but if my goal is to one be a position myself as a servant, and then two for this person to receive the message, I think that more people will have more success if they challenge somebody behind closed doors first, right?
Right.
So it's like just imagine you at a Thanksgiving event with your mom, all your aunts and everybody there, grandma, grandparents, and your mom could be saying something dead wrong.
Mhm.
If you say something to her publicly in front of everybody, she might just smack she might just smack you upside your head. She could be dead wrong, right?
Yeah.
But if you was if you right on the way home, you said, "Hey, you did this. I don't think that was okay." Right, and you position it a certain way, you might have her ear to listen to you more. Now, I'm not saying she's right for how she may respond in a public setting, but what I am saying is that for me as the believer, it positions me to do what I'm supposed to be doing, even if that person isn't doing what they're supposed to be doing. Does that make sense?
Man, that makes total sense. And I think that that is the very check that we have to get by. In you even saying that turned a light bulb on for me, that even when there are so many times where it is permissible for us to interact with stuff in a way that it can be interacted with, but it's not beneficial for us to do that. Right. And so you have the freedom to interact with what that person put there, but does it bring the most benefit? And that's the hardest part about being a believer, is that you just can't obey one scripture independently.
Right. Exactly.
You have to obey scripture in tension with where it finds its place in the whole counsel, right? And so you just said, it's just like, okay, well, you can do that, but that line up with Philippians 2, look into other people's interests higher than yourselves, you know, thinking of others higher than yourself, not thinking of yourself too highly, right? How does that weigh out? And I think if we took that stance that you just took more often, there will actually be less talk and more unity relationship building. Because what I have to do here's another thing about the comment section. Anything that Satan is going to try to get you to do, he's going to try to get you to do it with a trigger reaction. Doesn't want you to take time to think through it, because then that's when reason starts to happen. So if you say, man, like, I really don't agree with what he's saying, but let me go pray about it.
Right.
Let me have a set of scriptures that I need to have when I'm ready to engage somebody. Let me make sure I'm checkboxing all my scriptures and how I go about this, right? Let me actually step away from it. What I do at times is social media is so instant, like, oh man, let me get this joint in right now. I'm already here, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? No need for me to come back since I'm already here. Let me do this, when that is not the best way to do it. So you really see, man, I didn't know I was gonna come on here and be getting all this conviction on here like that. Like, that's the second big one where I was
I'm just talking. That's it. You know what I mean?
He's right about that. Like, am I submitting myself to a servant of this person? And am I falling into the trap of trying to be that expert that I believe my comment does better when it's seen by everybody else and not just seen by them?
Yeah.
Right?
And I'm learning this for my wife. Like, the idea that what the Bible does is it reframes good, right? So we think good is one thing, but the Bible takes it to another level, which can seem extreme. And that causes us to have to die to ourselves. So for me, in a lot of ways, I'm like, I'm a good husband. Can't nobody argue that.
Yeah.
But then there's times when I compare myself to what the scriptures is saying. And if I'm defining good by what the scripture is saying, there's a lot of ways I may not be being a good husband, right? There's a lot of ways I got to step it up to actually live out what it means to be a good husband. So as I'm realizing that relationship, how that applies in the relationship dynamic with my wife, I'm seeing that there's extensions with other members of the body that lends itself to as well.